All right, welcome to another episode of the Rapture Hour. My name is Shane. I'm your host. In every episode, we talk about the rapture for about an hour. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about Klaus Schwab, and we're going to actually listen to an interview, and I'm going to share my thoughts on that interview. And this was done probably about 9 days ago. So it's an interesting interview because he says some things in the interview that is quite alarming. And I'm going to share my thoughts. And of course, this sets everything up perfectly for a pre-tribulation rapture, and then also what happens to people during the tribulation. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, we talk a lot, obviously, about the rapture, end times, black swan events, the book of Revelation, all that kind of stuff. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get started. All right, let's go to this interview.
China relations. Obviously, when you talk about the US and China for businesses, it's going to be a new paradigm in which everyone operates. It's going to be a certain degree of.
I'm just going to turn off closed captioning because I think when we play it again, it'll probably show up twice. So I don't want to do that. So I'll just have it. And then if you're watching this video, you can leave closed caption on.
Instability, lack of clarity sometimes. But if we set aside the sort of vagaries of their domestic politics, set aside US domestic politics, the challenges that China may be going through, you've seen this for many years already. How do you foresee a long-term sort of stable situation between the US and China that at least the business sector, governments, or even the people can start preparing for? What's the likelihood?
The two economies are so intertwined, and I think we all have to work to create situations where the tensions do not span out of control. But if I come to the fundamental issue, it's not so much the question which country has a larger economy. I think the question is who masters the fourth industrial revolution, because it is industrial superiority, innovative superiority. Just think of artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and so on, which actually provides power to a country. So what we will see is a race for leadership in the fourth industrial revolution.
And you see.
All right. So in the stakeholder of capitalism, he also touches on a little bit about the fourth industrial revolution, just a little bit. And he talks about artificial intelligence as being the next big thing, if you will. And it's going to be a race, not only a race against time, but a race to be able to rule other countries with artificial intelligence. He doesn't pull back. He never hides his agenda. It's pretty open, it's pretty blatant. And there are other YouTube channels that joke about this, saying you'll own nothing and be happy. It's not too far-fetched. He talks about this kind of stuff and he just throws it out there. So you're going to hear this come up over and over again about artificial intelligence, and we're going to touch on that and tie it in with the book of Revelation, and also why you don't want to be around during the tribulation. Now, there are a few organizations out there that are like, we got to wrestle our way through this stuff. We have to earn our salvation. And I don't find that anywhere in scripture where Christians, the bride of Christ, the body of Christ, have to earn their stripes. Jesus did that for us. And I'll keep hammering that. It's all over the Pauline epistles. We are saved by grace, not by works. There's nothing that we can do to earn our salvation. Jesus did it for us by dying on the cross. So let's just continue this interview, but just keep that in mind that there is a master plan going on. And again, Klaus Schwab does not hold back. Now, you might have a hard time hearing both these guys because one guy has a Chinese accent that's pretty thick, and the other guy has a German accent as well that's pretty thick. So hopefully we can kind of wrestle our way through that.
Also other countries forming their own sort of separate alliances, allegiances, clubs amongst themselves, and even in Geneva, you have plurilateral sort of groupings, everyone sort of forming their own little circles of influence. Do you see this as something positive, as sort of a development in global geopolitics?
It's really multipolar because you have the middle states like Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, and of course India, exercising great influence on global on the global situation. Saudi Arabia, thanks to its energy reserves. India, thanks to the fact that it is the fastest growing economy at the moment. Then you have, I would say, also the industry.
Now, I just noticed something here, unless it's just a glitch or something, but hang on one sec.
Have, I would say, also the industrial powers. You could argue today that some of the companies like Google, Microsoft, and Swan are truly multi. I would say also it is the fastest growing economy at the moment. Then you have
right there. So obviously he gets lost sometimes in his conversation, and I noticed that there was an edit there, and they've edited this a couple of times back and forth, because I think if you just let Klaus Schwab go, he's gonna say some stuff that'll probably get him into trouble. So they've probably had to trim this down a bit, and plus he wanders, he goes off script. He probably has a script there, and so I could tell they're trying to seamlessly edit this interview to make him sound intelligent, if you will. So let's just continue on here. I just caught that there was like a quick little edit here because he was starting to wander off with this interview basically going in a different direction. So they had to bring him back.
I would say also the industrial powers. You could argue today that some of the companies like Google, Microsoft, and so on are truly multinational power factors. So it's a very complex world.
Yeah, so that's a bad edit as well. Like they're really trying hard to smooth this out, but that was a bad edit because he kind of stumbles with his word. It just chose to cut him off. So just watch.
Multinational power factors.
Right there.
So
boom.
It's a very complex world. And it's not a very stable world because we are now witnessing a kind of dynamic system which is constantly changing. And I should also add, by the way, to the power factors, small countries. I would argue that
this is brutal. I never noticed this before, but they are really editing this interview. They're slicing and dicing it. I want to get to the good stuff, but it's hard not to notice when they're just butchering his interview by cutting out things. And I think part of it is just to try and smooth it out. I honestly don't know what it'd be like to sit across the dining room table with this guy talking. I don't think you'd be able to understand what he's saying. I honestly don't. I think he would just ramble on about climate problems, global infrastructures, artificial intelligence, and he just combined them all into one sentence. So I'm trying my best to pay attention here because he does say some golden nuggets a little bit into this interview, but the editing is just brutal right now.
in the world of tomorrow, it's not the big fish eating the small fish, but the fast fish eating the slow fish. So you have countries like Singapore, like I would add Switzerland or Israel, playing also a essential role in the global system. We have to confront a very fragmented and I would say to a certain extent turbulent system, because those countries compete not only in economic terms, they compete having different values, having different systems. So the world is relatively full of complexities and certainly also uncertainties. Now, what we have to do in order to stick together is to look at those issues where we have really global interdependence, where if we do not cooperate, we will have a lose-lose situation.
Okay, this is where it gets to the good part. And I just got to talk about this real quick here. You're going to see this pop up from time to time, various media outlets, if you will, that are doing interviews with some of these people from the United Nations, and then obviously with WEF as well. You're going to hear a term, and this is something that you have to pay attention to. It's basically insanity 101. It's insane what they're saying, but if you don't pay attention to it, you're going to miss it. And that is the term lose-lose. So when he talks about that in this interview, we've heard these terms before. We've heard win-win. Like if I do something, let's just say I'm building a fence for you or something like that. I'm going to build the fence for you and your dog's not going to get out, but also we can both have a little bit of privacy and I'll just front the cost on that. It's a win for me because I get a little bit of privacy, barbecue, whatever, and it's a win for you. Your dog doesn't get out, all this kind of stuff, and I'll do it. So it's a win-win scenario. A win-lose would be a situation where you get the benefit of something, like let's just say I need a ride into town. I don't usually use my own vehicle, but let's just say I asked my neighbor and I said, could you give me a ride into town every day this week? And the neighbor's like, yeah, sure. I don't mind doing that. You know, I can do it once. And I'm like, no, like for the next couple of weeks, actually. Eventually it's going to get to the point where the neighbor is going to be like, okay, this is definitely a win for you, but what do I get out of this? This feels like a win-lose scenario. The illustration I used with the neighbor and the fence, that was kind of a win-win. We both benefit from this. This feels like a win-lose. So I win, you lose. And there's another scenario where I do something or somebody wants me to do something where I lose, they win. And I've been taught, or I've grown up with the idea, the concept that you want to strive for a win-win scenario. This means you're actually going to understand what the other person wants, and you're going to understand a little bit about what they want. They understand what you want, you understand what they want, and you join together to try and figure out how can we make this so that you win and so that I win. And that's what I grew up on. And I think most people could say that makes sense, but not our friend Klaus Schwab. No. Instead, you're going to see a lot of new age people think this too. I'm telling you, it's insanity. The goal to be able to stick together is to have lose-lose situations. I lose, you lose. But in order for us to progress forward, we have to just accept that is the proposal being set forward. I lose, you win, you lose, even though probably deep down inside, I'm going to win. There's only one entity in the entire universe that is thinking lose, lose. And that is the devil. The devil loses. You fast forward, you flip to the end of your Bible, the devil loses. He knows he's on a short leash. He doesn't have a lot of time left. He is out to destroy mankind. Why? Because he knows he is going to be finished himself. That's a lose-lose. There's nothing he can do to benefit himself. He's in a losing scenario, and he's going to make people that believe in him and worship him and all this kind of stuff, they're going to lose big time as well. That's an example of a lose-lose. In the kingdom of God, there's a win-win. If you believe in Jesus Christ, that he is the Son of God, you get eternal life. Big win. Big win. That's a win-win. Win for God, more people having eternal life. We get eternal life. But the opposite is in Satan's kingdom. He wants people to lose. So I'm going to jump back into the interview, but you got to pay attention to, again, because of the thick accent, you might miss this. I'll just rewind it a couple seconds, but he talks about the benefits of having a lose-lose scenario, and this is insanity.
Where we have really global interdependence, where if we do not cooperate, we will have a lose-lose situation. I'm thinking, for example, at the environmental challenge which we have. I think at migration challenges, and so on and so on. And we should focus our efforts of collaborations on those touch points.
What's your advice to the young Singaporeans, the young Qataris, the young Swiss who see this fast fish phenomenon? Is there something of a mindset shift that they need to have to be able to?
So this is the second time now that they've talked about this fast fish. I think the reason why they changed this is because they don't like the concept of a big fish eating all the smaller fish, because that's ultimately what's going to happen here. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. They don't want to talk about it like this. So instead they say the faster fish are going to get all the other fish because they're just faster. They're evolving, they're changing. And in order to succeed and move forward, you got to be comfortable with change. You just have to, even though it's a lose-lose, but you have to be comfortable with change, and you have to be comfortable moving faster. So they've switched this. Instead of big fish eating all the small fish, it's now faster fish eating all the small fish.
To compete, to be able to eat the slow fish.
Yes, I think to embrace change, what we see now.
So yeah, again, so the fast fish eating the slow fish. So if you're slow, you're going to get eaten up. You're going to get pulverized. And it's a weird switch because, again, we're used to the big fish eating the smaller fish, all those big corporate whatever, blah, blah, blah. So now they've switched it to say fast fish eating the slow fish. If you're a slow fish, you're going to get eaten alive.
And we will come back to it, this complex world, and also now the new factor of the technological revolution, particularly artificial intelligence. People have difficult to understand. And what we see is a certain fear of the future. I think it's the first time in global history that people are so pessimistic about the future. Now, my advice would be embrace change. Change will be a constant factor of our life.
So another edit there. So here he gets into the meat of this interview. Get used to change. Get used to it. And again, get used to the fast fish eating the slow fish. And it's just amazing how obvious he is with his words. He doesn't even try and hide it anymore. Right.
Change. change will be a constant factor of our lives. And those people who see change as an opportunity and not as a threat will succeed.
But there are some people who also fear or think of this as a sort of fundamental transition point in human history, this move into AI. Do you see any prospect of larger global cooperation, setting sort of guidelines, guardrails?
I feel that artificial intelligence is not only a game changer for business, it could be a game changer for societies. And we have to.
All right. So again, hinting, this guy salivates at the idea of artificial intelligence. And again, I'm going to touch on it in the book of Revelation when we get the image of the beast, the false prophet. All this stuff is lining up for end time stuff. And this guy is talking about it like it's not only just going to be an industrial change, but it's going to be a change that will affect the entire planet. And if you don't accept the idea of change, you're going to be swallowed up. You're going to be eaten alive. The fast movers that embrace artificial intelligence quickly are going to benefit. The ones that are slow and they're like taking their time and they're like saying, hey, hold on here. Let's just get some more regulations put in place before we roll out the magic carpet for artificial intelligence. In Klaus Schwab's eyes, that is moving too slow. You're going to get eaten up. You need to embrace change fast, fast, fast. And those that start thinking for themselves and go, wait a minute here, we need to pause for a second, you're going to be swallowed up.
Make all the efforts to use the tremendous opportunities offered by artificial intelligence. But there are social and, as I mentioned, existential challenges. The social challenges are, for example, in the capability to influence elections in a much stronger way and public opinion in general compared to what we have seen in the past, which is a danger for democracy. We have the impact on the workforce. A study which the World Economic Forum did shows that about 1/4 of jobs will disappear or replaced by artificial intelligence, and 1/4 will require reskilling and upskilling.
All right, so he just tosses that out nonchalantly, but it's important to talk about this. Now, he says that with artificial intelligence, there is the ability to manipulate elections. He just said that. And I think as he was saying it, he was like, oh no, why did I say that? Because now you can't take it back because I heard you say that. Artificial intelligence can manipulate elections. And there's also other things going on that there's going to be job loss, meaning you'll have to stay at home and we will feed you. We will take care of you. And I've mentioned that in other videos. After the rapture, when we're out of here, they're going to have a program in place to help the people that are left behind. They're going to have an agenda so that people don't get abducted, if you will, by aliens, because they're going to have some excuse for it. And he's literally telling you that if you don't embrace change, you're going to be swallowed up. And you're going to lose your job because of artificial intelligence. And you're also going to need to be reskilled, retrained, reprogrammed. He's not even hiding anything. All right, let's continue. Hope you guys are getting something out of this.
And one other quarter will require reskilling and upskilling. And then you have the existential question, because first you have the shift of power from governments to business, and you have the questions that the whole system may go out of the control. So what the World Economic Forum has done, we created a artificial intelligence governance alliance. We have in the alliance, we have cooperating all the big companies, Google, Microsoft, Meta, IBM, and so on. And on the other hand, we have integrated into those efforts also the G7 effort under the leadership of Japan. We work together with US, we work together with the European Union, and we will have.
All right, so he's already talking about we already have basically an infrastructure in place with Google, with Microsoft, with all these other organizations with regards to artificial intelligence. It's ready to rock and roll. But what he doesn't want happening is some of these private sectors, some of these private industries, if you will, he doesn't want them to be independent when he rolls this out, because they'll get in his way. So he has to, this is why they're trying to structure it with Microsoft, Google, all these other entities, Meta, he said, Facebook. So, Zuckerberg's on board with it. That when they roll this all out, you're not going to have a chance to think about this, because you need to embrace change quickly.
Have in November a artificial intelligence. It will be our second meeting with the European Union.
So this is 9 days ago, and he's talking about November. They're going to roll out or talk about artificial intelligence as one of their main agendas, if you will. And it's probably most likely going to be rolled out probably in the new year, 2024. So something to think about.
And we will have in November a artificial intelligence. It will be our second meeting with all the experts on our campus in San Francisco, as a preparation for the next annual meeting in Davos, which we will make a true global summit to look at all the aspects of artificial intelligence, and also to develop, based on proposals, the necessary safeguards which we need and which require global collaboration. We cannot have different safeguards in different, let's say, global regions.
Are you
Right. So they can't have, it's so funny, he's talking about safeguards. What he doesn't want happen is individuals or individual organizations having safeguards that they can't override. So what he wants is one safeguard that they can use so that nobody can stop them. Again, he is basically trying to usher in a one world government single-handedly. Do I think he's going to do it? No, I think he's probably going to have a heart attack before all this stuff happens. Just like I believe it's in the book of Daniel, where it talks about there's a person that actually raises taxes all around the world and then dies mysteriously, not of war, not of old age, just keels over. And I think this would be a prime specimen, Klaus Schwab, to usher in something like this, because he's so old and he'll probably have a heart attack or something the next day. And he's going to usher in some kind of a one world government currency or a tax upon the whole world, and then probably just dies the next day or whatever and gets replaced by whoever else. All right, let's continue.
confident that the collaboration between businesses and between business and government is something that can sort of progress as rapidly as needed because the technology is developing extremely rapidly. But just initial sense, do you think there's room for optimism?
No, you need a kind of resetting of government.
So basically, he said no. Sorry, I can't help it. This is so ridiculous. So let's go back to the question again. And he's like, no, you need a reset. It can't work the way it is. You can't have government and private industries working together, collaborating. It won't work. The infrastructure is flawed. We need to reset, meaning if you have a rapture, this is the perfect time to do a global reset. Why? Because there's going to be chaos the next day, pandemonium, and you have to have an infrastructure in place to protect people from being abducted again by aliens. And again, this is just my theory, but it falls into place where this begins to make sense that if you have Microsoft, Google, and all these other organizations on standby, man, November, you could start rolling these things out between November and January. And like he said, the next economic forum, World Economic Forum, that's all they're going to be talking about is artificial intelligence.
Business relations, because in the traditional way,
Whether you want to increase sales, generate leads, or build brand awareness, Google Ads can help.
governments looked at a new technology and set the necessary rules for the further development of the technology. But here, the technology is moving so fast, and it's also very difficult to understand really the technology. So the danger is governments will be too late in creating the necessary.
Well, let me back up a bit.
No, you need a kind of
Right here. Okay.
global collaboration. We cannot have different safeguards in different, let's say, global regions.
Are you confident that the collaboration between businesses and between business and government is something that can sort of progress as rapidly as needed because the technology is developing extremely rapidly? But just initial sense, do you think there's room for optimism?
No, you need a kind of resetting of government-business relations, because in the traditional way, governments looked at a new technology and set the necessary rules for the further development of the technology. But here, the technology is moving so fast, and it's also very difficult to understand really the technology. So the danger is governments will be too late in creating the necessary borderlines around the technology.
So this is what he wants. He just said it. He said that governments normally move too slow because, and Elon Musk touched on this as well in one of Joe Rogan's podcasts, said right now what's going to happen is governments will move too slow of a pace for artificial intelligence. And it'll be the same thing as when we had seatbelts for cars. Now it's mandatory to have seatbelts, but thousands of people had to die first in order for the government to actually say, hey, you know what? It's actually safer to wear a seatbelt, and it'll minimize the deaths, the death rates, and all this kind of stuff. Klaus Schwab is worried that governments are going to slow things down and go, wait a minute here, before we roll out this artificial intelligence, let's start putting some infrastructure, some protections, borders, if you will, so that some boundaries so that we can protect our citizens. That seems to be the normal thing. Klaus Schwab just said that's too slow. Artificial intelligence is moving too fast, so he's got another plan rolled up in his sleeves. He doesn't like that model of moving slow, protecting things, protecting people, protecting businesses. He wants to roll this thing out fast. Okay, let's go back to here. We're almost done.
And business, which is in a competitive battle, will just move ahead. And that means ghost will leave the bottle. So we have here to put much more emphasis
He
on
slips things in so quick.
She is moving so fast, and it's also very difficult to understand really the technology. So the danger is governments will be too late in creating the necessary borderlines around the technology, and business, which is in a competitive battle, will just move ahead. And that means ghost will leave the bottle. So we have here to put much more emphasis on self-regulation, and that's what the World Economic Forum is doing.
So when he says self-regulation, he points to himself and says, I'm going to self-regulate you guys. It's basically, he doesn't want industries to do their own thing, doesn't want governments because they're too slow. So I'll regulate everything. You can see the gesture. He's like, we're going to do this. It's funny.
To make sure that this self-regulation is also, maybe sometimes afterwards, approved and endorsed by governments and civil society.
We are, everyone knows, soon to be a super-aged society. Many societies in Asia as well, Japan and Korea, are moving in that direction. What's your sense in how do we change the narrative from talking about longevity and an aged society, from sort of a slightly...
It's interesting that China's not mentioned. I don't think they mentioned Singapore. Oh, okay, I get it. It's from Singapore. I get it. All right. But it's just interesting that they're not talking too much about the governments of China and that kind of stuff. So I'll just let this go here. Let's go.
Negative challenge kind of narrative into something potentially positive.
We should not just speak about longevity, but we should speak about healthy old age. And this starts, in my opinion, at an early age. We should even introduce in schools the teaching, I would say, of health literacy, because definitively we have today in many...
One thing they didn't mention either is Taiwan. Taiwan has an interesting play, but they're not talking about Taiwan and China too much.
Parts of the world and in many sectors of population, we have unhealthy behavior, which afterwards have a big impact not only on health insurances, but also on the quality of life. Our effort should be not only to prolong life, but to make sure that we have, as long as possible, a healthy life. And this starts with health literacy, to know what are actually the factors which make your life healthier. A second element is the question of retirement. We created this retirement age principle when people have had much shorter life expectancies. I think we should be very flexible related to.
So again, now we're tapping into people's retirement funds, and he's saying, like, before we created all this because people weren't living as long. Now they're living a little bit longer, and we need to revamp that as well. So we got to revamp governance. We got to revamp industries. We got to revamp jobs, as in canceling jobs. We have to revamp reskilling, is what he called it, which is an interesting term, not training or anything, but it's reskilling, saying that you need to do this type of job, not that type of job, and we're going to pay you, and you're going to be happy. So let's continue here. So now he's talking about revamping old age pensions and all this kind of stuff.
The integration of older people into the work process. And finally, I think it's a question also, what is the meaning of life? What mission do people have when they get older? Do they feel idle, or do they still have a mission? I would say my own most important resource for being active is this notion of having a mission in life.
Thank you, Professor Schwab.
Thank you
All right, so that's
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's his mission in life. That's his one single-handed mission, is to dominate the world. I don't know how else you can see it. You can't see it any different way. This guy's up to no good. He's slimy, greasy, all kinds of stuff. You could throw every term in there. This guy is on an agenda. This is his mission, to revamp everything, to, like I just mentioned, a whole list of things. Changing jobs, probably cutting wages, allowing you to stay home and not own anything and be happy because they're taking care of you, and they're rejigging everything, getting rid of old age pension, preventing industries from accelerating with artificial intelligence without their guidance. He wants to self-regulate everything when it comes to artificial intelligence. Doesn't want governments to go too slow, because that gets in the way. Once they get a conscience and go, hey, wait a minute, this is bad, too late. Too late. Kind of reminds me of Lex Luthor, Superman's nemesis. It's just like he doesn't even try and hide it, man. Doesn't try and hide the idea that he is a super villain. It's crazy. Anyways, hopefully you got something out of this. I'm telling you, the guy's up to no good. If you want me to make another video like this with another interview, let me know that in the comments. Let me know you got something out of this. Have you seen this interview before? Also, let me know where you're watching this video from. And I'll see you guys on the next video. And don't forget to subscribe. Bye. See ya.